She picked the date herself. Then Caitlin Clark made her regret it. She circled it on her own calendar. She posted it to the world. And when the day finally came, the Chicago Sky lost by 23 points while the player she tagged in that post buried 8 three-pointers in her face. This is the story of how one social media post turned an ordinary regular season rematch into appointment viewing, and how the night actually played out once the ball went up. Stick around, because the numbers by the end of this game are the kind of numbers that don't happen twice in a league's entire history, and I'm going to walk you through every piece of it. If you're into WNBA storylines like this one, hit subscribe now, because this season has not slowed down for a single week. To understand why August 23rd mattered so much, we have to go back 2 weeks earlier. On August 8th, the Indiana Fever and Chicago Sky met at the United Center in Chicago. In the first quarter, Fever guard Sophie Cunningham had a breakaway toward the basket. Sky guard DiJonai Carrington, trying to prevent an easy score, made hard contact with Cunningham around the head and neck area instead of the ball. Cunningham went down. Officials reviewed the play and ejected Carrington with a flagrant 2 foul. Within minutes, Carrington posted "white privilege" on social media and tagged the Fever's account. It set off a wave of national attention that went well beyond basketball circles. Commentators, athletes, and even a state lieutenant governor weighed in over the following days. We covered that full story in detail in an earlier video, so if you want the complete breakdown of that fallout, it's linked for you. But here's the piece that set up everything that happened next. In the middle of that controversy, Carrington posted something else. Just the numbers, August 23rd. That was the date of the Fever's next matchup with the Sky. Fans and media widely read it as her marking the calendar for a rematch. She never publicly walked that framing back. From that point on, this stopped being a normal late August game between a playoff contender and a team fighting for postseason positioning. It became a storyline with a date attached to it, and once a date like that gets attached to a rivalry, everybody remembers it. For 2 weeks, that August 23rd date sat out there. Indiana, for its part, didn't engage publicly with any of it. Sophie Cunningham, the player at the center of the original incident, didn't fire back online either. She simply kept playing. Caitlin Clark, ahead of the game, told reporters she felt good, felt ready, and expected a strong outing. The kind of thing players say constantly without it meaning much of anything. We'll come back to that quote because it turned out to mean quite a lot this time. Meanwhile, the Fever were closing out a brutal stretch. Their 3rd game in 4 nights, the tail end of a 5-game road trip, and this one on the 2nd night of a back-to-back. To make things tougher, Indiana was without starting center Aaliyah Boston, who was out with a leg injury. On paper, that's exactly the kind of scheduling spot where a tired team slips up. Chicago, on the other hand, had won 3 straight games coming in and had every incentive, competitively and emotionally, to make a statement in this one. From the opening minutes, it was clear Chicago wasn't playing passively. Carrington and the Sky came out physical, contesting aggressively and playing right up against Clark all night. At one point in the second quarter, Carrington fouled Clark hard after she went under a screen. Contact that drew attention from national commentators afterward, including sports personality Dave Portnoy, who accused Carrington of mocking Clark after the whistle and called the reaction out directly on social media. Clark, for her part, didn't engage with any of it publicly during the game. She just kept playing, and that's really where this story turns. The Fever got moving early, with Clark finding rookie big Michaela Timpson for an easy look in the opening minutes before knocking down her first 3 of the night herself. She kept attacking off the dribble, working her way around defenders in the paint, and kept the ball moving to teammates all quarter. By the end of the first, the game was tied, but Clark already had 8 points and 4 assists to show for it. A fast start, even if Indiana hadn't pulled away yet. The second quarter is where the contact with Carrington picked up. After that hard foul near midcourt, Clark responded less than a minute later with a step-back 3 well beyond the arc. From there, the pattern repeated itself most of the night. Extra contact after the whistle from Chicago's defense, and Clark answering by simply making the next shot. She finished the first half with 18 points, 6 assists, and 3 made threes. A strong half, even though Indiana still trailed by 1 heading into the break. It was the second half where the game actually turned. Clark kept drawing extra defenders and finding open teammates, including Lexi Hull for a three that put Indiana back in front, and the Fever started to pull away for good behind a 13-2 run. From that point, it became a scoring clinic. Clark hit a 36-foot three from well beyond NBA range, then kept adding to her total until the makes started coming in bunches, three-pointer after three-pointer, 8 total on the night, a new career high. She capped the performance with her 10th assist to complete the double-double, and Indiana closed the game with a 30-point fourth quarter to turn a competitive game into a blowout. By the final buzzer, Clark's line read 37 points, 10 assists, 3 rebounds, and that career-high 8 made three-pointers. Afterward, she was asked when she knew it was going to be that kind of night. Her answer, before the game even started. She'd told head coach Stephanie White beforehand that she had a feeling this one was going to be special, and even White, watching a 30-point fourth quarter unfold in real time, admitted she was stunned by just how it played out. Here's where the numbers stop being just a good game and start being historic. That 30-point, 10-assist stat line was the 5th time in Clark's career she's reached that combination. To put that in perspective, every other player in WNBA history, combined, has done it 4 times total. Clark alone has more games like that than the rest of the league's entire history put together. She's also now the only player in league history with multiple games of at least 35 points and 10 assists in the same night. She wasn't doing it alone either. Kelsey Mitchell had one of her best nights of the season too, scoring 30 points of her own on 6 made threes. Together, Clark and Mitchell now have the most combined 30-point games by any backcourt duo in WNBA history. As a team, Indiana knocked down 18 three-pointers, a new franchise single-game record. Lexi Hull, who's had a difficult season by her own standards, chipped in 14 points on efficient shooting, and afterward talked about what it meant to contribute in a game like this. She said it's about staying ready, getting the opportunity, getting open looks, and having the confidence to knock them down when your number gets called, since you never know which night is going to be yours. Second-year forward Michaela Timpson added 12 points and 9 rebounds off the bench, stepping up in extended minutes with Boston sidelined. Coach Stephanie White had to get creative up front without her starting center, rotating multiple bigs through the game, and the offense never lost its pace doing it. The Fever pulled away for good in the third quarter with a 13-2 run, then blew the game open in the fourth, outscoring Chicago 30-something to 13 in that final period alone on their way to a 113-90 final. For Chicago, the box score was rough across the board. Natasha Cloud led the Sky with 16 points and 7 assists, and Azura Stevens added 14 points and 8 rebounds, but the rest of the roster struggled to find any rhythm. DiJonai Carrington, the player whose name had been attached to this date for 2 straight weeks, finished with 7 points on 3 of 11 shooting in 18 minutes, and the loss officially eliminated Chicago from playoff contention that same night, combined with results elsewhere in the league. You can imagine what happened online once the final buzzer sounded. Fans immediately went back to Carrington's original August 23rd post and started reworking it into their own punchlines, pointing out that if she really had been circling that date, the Fever were the ones who delivered on it. Posts comparing her call-out to Clark's 8 three-pointers and the 23-point final margin spread quickly across sports social media. A widely shared line from one fan account put it simply: the numbers she'd flagged weeks in advance ended up describing exactly how badly her own team lost. To be clear about what we can and can't confirm here, we don't have a verified statement from Carrington blaming officiating for the loss, and we're not going to repeat that claim without a source behind it. What is confirmed is the box score, the in-game contact that drew outside criticism, and the wave of fan reaction to her earlier post once the final score was in. That's plenty on its own to explain why this game is still being talked about days later. There was also a strange subplot at courtside that night. Former NBA player Enes Kanter Freedom attended the game and was ejected in the third quarter after a confrontation with Chicago's Natasha Cloud. Freedom, along with former NBA player Royce White, had recently declared themselves eligible for the WNBA draft while saying they identify as women, a claim that drew its own wave of controversy completely separate from the Cunningham-Carrington storyline, and one that added even more noise to an already loaded night at Wintrust Arena. Strip away all the social media noise, and what's left is a genuinely historic individual performance from Clark, a franchise scoring record for Indiana as a team, and a Chicago season that's now officially over. The Fever, meanwhile, closed out a grueling 5 games in 8 days stretch with a winning 3-2 record on the trip, and head into the stretch run of the season with Clark squarely in the middle of the MVP conversation. Whatever anyone thinks about how the pregame narrative got built, a promise, a posted date, a rivalry that spilled well outside basketball circles, none of that ended up matching once the ball went up. The scoreboard did the talking, and it did it loudly. 37 points, 10 assists, a career-high 8 threes, and a franchise record set along the way. So here's the question for you. Was this always just going to be a blowout given Chicago's playoff position and Indiana's depth? Or did the 2 weeks of buildup actually change how this game got played? Let me know what you think in the comments. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you're subscribed, because the Fever's playoff push is only getting more interesting from here, and we'll be covering every twist of it as the season winds down. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.